I wanted to ask you, what is your advice to people as we are living through these inflationary times, as the recession is going to get worse, maybe it's going to be a great recession? What should people be doing? Should they be buying gold? Should they be keeping the real estate? What should they do?
Well, it depends on, their financial situation. But I mean, if you're somebody who's just barely,
let's say average.
Yeah.
Middle class.
As I said, I'll just give, the gamut. So, but you're just getting by. What I've been telling people to do for years is to stock up. When you go to this market, don't just buy what you need this week, buy what you might need for the next several months or maybe even several years when you're talking about buying non-perishables, buying stuff that, doesn't go bad or that has a long shelf life, whether it's, in the food category or just cleansers or toiletries or different things.
Is that because the price is going to go up soon?
Yes.
And so you want to buy it now?
The price is going to go up.
Okay.
And so why wait to buy it? It's just going to get more expensive. If prices are going to go up 10% a year and I buy something today instead of a year from now, that's a 10% return on my money. Because if you just put the money in the bank, you're not going to really earn any interest. Even though rates have gone up, bank deposits are not really paying anything. But one of the things I am also concerned about is that inflation is going to get so bad in the future that we're going to have price controls. The government is going to, make it illegal for businesses to raise prices beyond certain points. And so that's going to create shortages. And so a lot of the things that we take for granted as being available, they're not going to be there. The shelves will be empty. And if you want to buy them, then you're going to have to risk going to jail because you'll have to buy them illegally on the black market where they can charge, a market price. But of course, then the market price is really high because the guy selling you the stuff that you need is risking going to jail. And so he has to build that premium into the price. So whenever you have a government creating a black market, which they do when they have price controls, prices are much higher than they would have been had they simply allowed the free market to raise prices. But if you're more affluent and you have a large amount of money and you want to invest, you can't just invest all your money in toothpaste and deodorant, right? There's a limit to how much you're going to need. Yeah. So then you want to look at investments that will do well in an inflationary time period. And that's pretty much the opposite of everything that did well in the last 10, 20 years. So you don't want to own tech stocks, for example, high PE
no
stocks.
Crypto.
No crypto. You don't want to own companies that don't have any earnings or that don't have enough earnings to pay a good dividend and don't have a history of increasing their dividend. So we buy value stocks, dividend paying stocks, pretty much mostly outside the United States. That's where you get the best value for your money. That's where you can get lower prices in terms of relation to earnings, higher dividends, but also you can get income coming in currencies that I believe are going to rise sharply against the US dollar. So you want to have that kind of hedge as well. I think emerging markets are going to do particularly well over the next decade relative to developed markets and even more so relative to the United States. Commodities, I think, are going to deliver, incredible returns. Agricultural commodities, metals, energy, all that stuff, and the companies that are involved in those sectors should do well, and they should be able to deliver solid earnings and dividend growth to their shareholders. But also, precious metals. I think nothing will shine brighter in a high inflation environment than gold. Now, one of the reasons that gold hasn't shined yet is because people don't expect the high inflation to stick around. Everybody still believes the government is going to bring the rate back down to 2%. Now, that's not going to happen. But when the markets come to term with this reality that inflation is here to stay, and in fact, it's going to get worse, not better, then you're going to see a rush out of paper into real things, in particular into gold. And so people who own gold will do well. And I think people who own mining stocks, gold and silver mining stocks, will do even better. So if you're somebody who's willing to assume higher risk, I think the upside potential in that sector is phenomenal. So that's where I'd be investing my risk capital. And that's where, I have a lot of my own money already in that sector. And a lot of the money that I manage on behalf of clients at Euro Pacific Capital, Euro Pacific Asset Management rather, is in the mining sector. In fact, we have a mutual fund that people can pick up on any discount brokerage platform. But we also work with it at my firm. But we have a fund that is exclusively invested in mining stocks.
Wow. And my last question is on homes, because traditionally Americans built their wealth through owning their home, which I guess is going to be more difficult because of the interest rates. But would you recommend that still kind of be the American dream, the goal to own a home?
No, I think homes are more money pits than sources of wealth. I mean, I own several homes, and I can attest to the fact that they are very expensive. Stuff is constantly going wrong. You have to pay a lot of money to maintain them. You have property taxes every year. You have insurance every year. You've got to cover utilities. And by the way, insurance rates have skyrocketed, homeowners insurance, in the last year or two. And so between taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, those are ongoing expenses that you have to pay. But these are depreciating assets. I mean, they wear down as you live in a house. Things have to be replaced. The roof has to be replaced. The air conditioners, blow out. They got to be replaced. I mean, pipes burst. I mean, it's not a source of wealth. You don't get wealthy owning a home and living in it. You spend your wealth on your home. You get wealthy by earning money and investing money, but your home is not an investment. A lot of realtors tried to con people into thinking that they were investing money when they were purchasing a home, because they would be willing to spend more money because of that mentality. They would take a larger percentage of their income and put it into a house if they thought they were also getting an investment. And for a period of time, there was a housing bubble, and housing prices went up, and so it created the illusion that a home was like a ticket to Easy Street. That and the whole idea of the American dream being to own a home, it wasn't because you got rich owning a home. The American dream was being rich enough to afford a home. That was the American dream, because homes are expensive. So you don't get rich because you own a home. But because you get rich, you can afford to own a home. Because one way to prevent yourself from getting rich is to buy a home that you can't afford. And now you're sinking all kinds of money into that home. And of course, you got a mortgage payment. And now the mortgage payments are a lot bigger with higher interest rates. So for most people, they're better off renting. Especially young people, single people. I mean, you have a lot more flexibility when you're a renter. You can come and go. I mean, you get a good job in another area, you can pick up and move and take that job. You don't have kids. Who cares about the school district? You're single. What do you need a whole big house for? If it's just you. I mean, it's ridiculous, people getting out of college and then just taking on a mortgage. Some of them still have student loans to pay off, and now they're taking on a mortgage. So, you rent as long as you can. And then even when people get married, and they don't even get married now, until they're later in life than they used to, so maybe later 20s, early 30s, before you have any kids, you don't need a house. It's when you settle down, you have some kids, you can get a dog, now maybe you need more room. You're worried about the schools and stuff like that, and you're kind of settled down in your job. You know where you're going to be. You're committed to an area. Okay, you want to buy a home then, and you
get your home, you get your pet, you stock up on your beans and rice and gold, and then you're all set.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate your thoughts on this, and it's just been very insightful. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, Danielle, and my best to your father. I haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's well, and you're following in big footsteps. So hopefully you could fill